Welcome to Your Cyber Path, the podcast that helps you get your dream cybersecurity job by sharing the secrets of experienced hiring managers and top cybersecurity professionals with you. Now, on to the show.
So, Kip, what does that really look like in the real world? When you hear authentication, what are you thinking about?
Well, I always like to start with a concrete example in real space. And that would look like showing an ID badge at a security desk. You want to go into a building and you walk in and maybe you have an appointment, maybe you don't, maybe it's your workplace, but there's somebody there who wants to make sure that you actually belong in this building, that you have a need to be in the building. And one of the ways that they're going to do that is they're going to identify you. Who are you? I've never seen you before, or I've seen you before, but are you fired? Like, do you still work here? Show me your badge. And so that's really, that's authentication in the real world. And then we extend that idea into, cyberspace, into our data networks and into our computer systems. But it's different because when you're in computer systems and on a network, nobody can really validate you, or I should say authenticate you the way that they can at an entryway, right? By looking at a photo ID and then looking up at you and giving you like the I see you business, right? So we have different ways of doing that. And that's what we want to explore here. And it could be things like a user ID and password combination. And it could include other things like, hey, I'm going to send a text message to your mobile phone. And because your mobile phone is under your control, and then that's going to help me feel confident that when you put that text, the number in the text into the authentication field, that it really is Kip, and it's not somebody who just stole Kip's user ID and password. And there's all kinds of other ways to do multi-factor authentication, which of course, we're going to unpack a lot of that. And there's some other things that are going on right now in the real world where multi-factor authentication is concerned that we need to talk about because the game is changing.
Yeah. And then the other one that, I think about in the real world that's gotten really popular here in 2022, and you're going to see even more of it in 23 and 24, is that you're seeing a lot of passwordless authentication schemes as well. We've actually played around with that a little bit on our own site and how we were playing with it. And one of the ways you can do this is essentially the person would put in their email address, like, support@diontraining.com. And when they do that to log in, they then get sent an email. And in that email is a one-time use magic link. And when they click on it, it's good for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and will log them into the system. No passwords are needed. The only thing you need is your email. Now, the problem with that is that if somebody has attacked your email because you're using a weak username and password, well, then you've now been able to get into my site as well because they have access to your email. And so there are lots of different ways that this is happening. Another thing I'm seeing a lot with Google and Apple and Microsoft, they've been working together on the new passkey. And that's going to be another way of doing passwordless authentication. So you're going to continue to see authentication changing over the years. But right now, as Kip said, it's things like badging, it's things like multi-factor, single sign-on, federation, usernames and passwords, one-time use codes, all those kind of things all fit into this authentication bucket. And when you hear authentication, really it is, how do I know you are who you say you are? Prove it to me, right?
Right.
You get pulled over on the interstate for speeding. First thing the cop is going to ask you is, give me your license. I want to see who you are, right? That's an authentication. He wants to figure out who you are and what you're doing.
Exactly.